He made fun of me in front of his buddies because I didn't have a job. They had no idea I owned the company they worked for until I fired them. I just kept quiet through another evening of their cruel jokes. Can't even land an entry-level job, my husband Matt laughed, clinking glasses with his colleagues. The irony was just too good. I'd actually hired the firm that found each of them. Tomorrow, that very same firm would help me clean house. The crystal glass felt cool in my hand as I watched them from across our marble living room. 5 guys in tailored suits, all senior execs at Reynolds Technologies, all handpicked by me through layers of shell companies and quiet hiring firms. And Matt, my husband of 8 years, their VP of operations, leading the chorus of mockery. Remember when she tried interviewing at Reynolds? Matt went on, loosening his designer tie. Man, I wish I could have seen that train wreck. Before we begin, I just want to thank each of you for being part of this incredible journey. If you're enjoying these stories of empowerment, consider subscribing. It's totally free and helps us build this awesome community. Let's dive in. If only he knew that interview was my quarterly inspection of middle management, carefully set up through my maze of holding companies. I'd built Reynolds Technologies from scratch 12 years ago, even before I met Matt. The company was my first love, my redemption after watching my dad's small business crumble under corporate raiders. At least she's persistent, chuckled Steve from marketing. How many rejections this month, Matt? Lost count? Matt smirked, grabbing the 30-year-old scotch. My scotch. Everything in this house, the art, the imported furniture, even the fancy watch on his wrist, all paid for by the company he thought had rejected me. I took another sip of water, keeping up my practiced mask of quiet humiliation. The same mask I'd worn when I first met Matt at a charity gala. Back then, I'd already learned the hard way that success attracts parasites. 3 failed relationships with guys who saw me as their ticket to luxury had taught me to be careful. So when I met Matt, I decided to try something. I acted like a struggling freelance consultant, driving a simple car and living in a tiny apartment. Matt seemed different at first, even supportive. You'll find your place, he'd said back then. Just keep trying. But as soon as we got married and he moved into what he thought was our house, his true colors started to show. Success changed him, or more accurately, revealed who he really was. Hey honey, Matt called out, his voice dripping with fake sympathy. Maybe you should try the coffee shop down the street. I heard they're hiring baristas. More laughter. I forced a weak smile, playing my role perfectly. Inside, I was reviewing the docs my private investigators had gathered over the past year, unofficial meetings with competitors, inflated expense reports, and small but steady leaks of company info that always seemed to benefit Matt's personal stock portfolio. I think I'll head upstairs, I said softly, playing the part of the defeated wife. Big day tomorrow. Another interview. Don't wait up, sweetie, Matt called after me. We're celebrating David's promotion. Might be a late one. David, my newest plant in senior management. Tomorrow, he'd be the one documenting their loose-lipped drunken conversations, adding to the evidence we'd been gathering. In my private study, locked away from their drunken voices, I sat down at my desk. The hidden wall panel slid open quietly, revealing my secure workspace. 3 monitors came to life, showing Reynolds Technologies' real-time operations across the globe. A small empire built through years of careful strategy and strong NDAs. My phone buzzed. A message from Emily, my most trusted executive and one of the few who knew my true identity. Final documentation in place. Board members briefed. Tomorrow's meeting confirmed. I smiled, thinking of the big reveal that was about to happen. The board had always known me as Amanda Blake, the reclusive founder who only communicated through encrypted video calls. Tomorrow, they'd meet their CEO in person for the first time, not as the mysterious figure behind the screen, but as Matt's unemployable wife. My fingers traced the edge of the termination papers on my desk, not just for Matt, but for every member of his little drinking club. Each document backed by months of evidence, reviewed by our legal team. Ironclad. The sound of breaking glass echoed from downstairs, followed by loud laughter. There was a time when such carelessness in my own home would have really made me mad. Now, it just added another piece to the documentation. Improper use of company property for personal entertainment. I closed my eyes, letting the familiar hum of computers wash over me. Tomorrow would change everything. But tonight, I savored the calm before the storm, remembering my dad's words. Success isn't about who has the biggest voice in the room. It's about who has the wisdom to wait, watch, and pick the perfect moment to act. The perfect moment had finally arrived. I heard Matt and his crew stumbling out to their cars, their drivers. My employees quietly documenting their intoxicated state with dash cams. More evidence for their files. I changed into my night clothes, the same simple pajamas I'd worn for years as part of my facade. One last night of pretense. Tomorrow, I'd wake up as Matt's underestimated wife, but by sunset, I'd be revealed as Amanda Blake, CEO of Reynolds Technologies and the architect of their downfall. Through the bedroom window, I watched their cars disappear into the night. In 12 hours, they'd arrive at their offices, nursing hangovers, completely unaware their world was about to implode. The thought brought a small smile to my face as I drifted off to sleep, dreaming of tomorrow's sweet revelation. Morning arrived with the precision of a well-orchestrated plan. I woke before Matt, watching him struggle with his hangover as he rushed to prepare for what he thought would be a normal day at the office. Little did he know, I had arrived at Reynolds Technologies long before him. At 6:30 a.m., I entered through the service entrance, dressed in an intentionally plain navy suit from a department store, a far cry from my usual designer wardrobe. Emily met me in the basement security office, away from prying eyes. "Everything's in place," she murmured, handing me a visitor's badge. "The interview is scheduled for 9:00 a.m. with HR. Matt's team has their regular morning meeting at the same time. David will keep them occupied." The visitor's badge felt odd against my blazer. Maria Rodriguez, interview candidate. For years I'd observed my company through cameras and reports, but today's performance needed a personal touch. A chance to see firsthand how deep the rot had spread. I sat in the lobby, purposely arriving an hour early, the eager candidate desperate to impress. The security guard barely glanced at me, too busy greeting the stream of executives arriving for their day of reckoning. I watched Matt stride to the lobby at 8:45, not even noticing me behind my prop reading material, the company's own annual report. "Miss Rodriguez?" The HR representative, Chris, appeared right on schedule. "Please follow me." The elevator ride to the HR floor was filled with the kind of small talk I'd engineered through our corporate culture initiatives. Great weather we're having, and traffic wasn't too bad this morning, all while employees politely nodded at the woman they assumed was just another hopeful candidate. Chris led me through the open office layout I designed years ago. "We'll start with a brief skills assessment," he explained, then a panel interview with some of our team leaders. His tone carried that subtle condescension reserved for candidates they'd already decided not to hire. The skills assessment was almost insulting in how simple it was. Basic coding problems I could have solved in my sleep. I deliberately made small mistakes, playing the role of the nervous applicant. Through the glass walls, I could see Matt and his crew in their morning meeting, laughing about something. Probably another candidate they decided to mess with. "Well," Chris said, reviewing my intentionally flawed work. "This is interesting." His pause said a lot. "Let's move on to the panel interview." The conference room he led me to overlooked the city, a view I usually enjoyed from my private office, 24 stories above. 3 middle managers waited inside, all wearing the same expression of bored superiority. I recognized each face from their personnel files, knew their salaries, their performances, their secrets. "So, Miss Rodriguez," began the first interviewer, not even bothering to introduce himself, "I see you've been between jobs for some time." "Yes," I replied softly, adding a slight tremor to my voice. "It's been challenging in this market." "And what makes you think you're qualified for a job at Reynolds Technologies?" The second interviewer barely looked up from his phone as he asked. I launched into the carefully crafted story we'd prepared, a mix of genuine qualifications masked by apparent desperation. With each response, I watched them grow more dismissive. They'd already decided my fate, just like they did to countless other qualified candidates who didn't fit their preconceptions. Through the glass walls, I could see Matt passing by. He did a double take, then smirked, pulling out his phone. Moments later, the interviewers' phones buzzed simultaneously. I didn't need to see their screens to know he was texting them about his wife's latest embarrassing attempt to get a job. The rest of the interview was a masterclass in corporate cruelty, subtle jabs, exchanged glances, barely concealed yawns. I documented every microaggression, every breach of our HR policies, while maintaining my facade of nervous optimism. "Thank you for your time," Chris said finally, his tone making it clear there would be no second interview. "We'll be in touch." As I walked toward the elevator, I heard Matt's voice around the corner. "No way, that was your wife, man. She really is desperate. Did you see her suit? Probably from Target." I kept walking, letting their laughter fuel what was to come. In my purse, my real phone buzzed with messages from Emily, board members arriving early, legal team standing by, security ready to escort. The final piece of my charade was about to begin. I ducked into a restroom, entering the last stall where Emily had hidden a garment bag earlier that morning. Inside was my real armor, a perfectly tailored Chanel suit, Louboutin heels, and the CEO's security badge I'd never worn in public. as I transformed from Maria Rodriguez, failed job candidate, to Amanda Blake, CEO of Reynolds Technologies. Their mocking laughter still echoed in my mind. In 30 minutes, I would walk into the boardroom, not as a supplicant, but as their ultimate superior. I checked my reflection one last time, adjusting the pearl necklace that had been my mom's. Success is silent, she used to say, until the perfect moment to roar. That moment was finally here. I stepped out of the restroom as Amanda Blake for the first time in my own building, watching employees' eyes widen as they struggled to reconcile the confident executive before them with the nervous interviewee from moments ago. Let them stare. The real show was about to begin. The click of my Louboutin against the marble floor announced each step toward the executive floor. Employees scrambled to clear my path, their confusion obvious as they tried to place my familiar, yet transformed face. The whispers started immediately, word of the mysterious CEO's presence spreading like wildfire through the building's messaging systems. I took the private elevator, the one Matt had always wondered about, installed for the phantom CEO's exclusive use. As I ascended, Emily's text confirmed everything was in place. Board members seated, Matt and team still in their morning briefing, security standing by. The elevator opened right into the boardroom's antechamber. Through the frosted glass, I could see the silhouettes of our board members, all aware of what was about to happen. But first, I had a different meeting to attend. I turned left, heading toward the executive conference room where Matt and his inner circle were celebrating their latest victories. Standing in the shadows of the hallway, I could hear their voices clearly through the door, left carelessly ajar. "You should have seen her face during the interview," Matt was saying, his voice carrying that smug tone I'd grown to despise. My own wife, thinking she could actually land a job here. I mean, what's next? Trying to become. Loud laughter followed. "Classic case of delusions of grandeur," Steve from marketing added. "Remember when she tried giving us advice about the Thompson account at your birthday party? Oh God, that was priceless." Another voice chimed in, telling us how we should restructure our client approach, like she knows anything about this business. The irony was exquisite. The Thompson account had been my strategy, carefully fed through intermediaries. It had saved the company millions and earned us 3 more major clients. Should we tell her she failed the interview, or let HR do the dirty work? Matt asked, triggering another round of laughter. It was time. I stepped into the doorway, my presence casting a shadow across their morning coffees. The laughter died instantly. "Actually," I said, my voice carrying the authority of 12 years of leadership, "I think I'll deliver that news myself." The shock on their faces was everything I'd imagined, and more. Matt's coffee cup stopped halfway to his mouth, his face straining of color as he struggled to reconcile his wife's appearance with the aura of absolute authority I now projected. What are you doing here?" he stammered. "And dressed like the CEO of Reynolds Technologies," I finished for him, stepping fully into the room. "Exactly like that, as a matter of fact." Steve started to laugh, then stopped abruptly when no one joined him. David, my planted executive, was already gathering his things, a knowing smirk playing at the corners of his mouth. "This is a restricted floor," Matt tried, attempting to regain some control. "Security will be here any minute." "They're already here," I replied calmly, as 2 security officers appeared behind me, though not for the reason you think. I pulled out my phone, sending a single text. Immediately, every screen in the conference room lit up with a single document, the company's original incorporation papers, bearing my signature and photo. "Amanda Blake," I announced, watching their faces contort as the realization hit them. "Founder and CEO of Reynolds Technologies. Or, as you know me, Matt's unemployable wife." The silence was deafening. Matt's face had gone from white to green, his eyes darting between my face and the documents showing his wife of 8 years as the owner of everything he bragged about building. "This is impossible," he whispered. "You're just what, Matt? Just your wife? Just someone who couldn't even land an entry-level job?" I moved to the head of the table, my table, and sat down. "Tell me, how does it feel to realize you've been mocking your own boss for years?" Steve stood up suddenly, his chair screeching against the floor. "I should go." "Sit down," I commanded, my voice cutting through his panic. "None of you are going anywhere just yet." I pressed another button on my phone. The screens changed to display a compilation, security footage, email exchanges, recorded conversations. Every joke, every mockery, every cruel moment played out in high definition. "An interesting management style you've developed," I observed, watching them squirm. "Creating a culture of bullying, discrimination, and harassment. Did you really think I wouldn't notice? That I wouldn't care how you treated people you thought were beneath you?" "Amanda, honey," Matt tried, his voice taking on the pleading tone he used when trying to talk his way out of trouble. "We can explain." "Oh, I think you've explained enough, I cut him off. In fact, you've been explaining for years. Every dinner party, every social gathering, every company event, you've made your character crystal clear. I stood up, smoothing my skirt. The board is waiting next door to formalize what you've already accomplished yourselves, your immediate termination for cause. All of you. I looked each man in the eye, saving Matt for last. Though, I suppose I should thank you. You've made this decision remarkably easy. You can't do this, Matt protested weakly. I'm your husband. Actually, I smiled, removing my wedding ring and placing it on the table. As of this morning, I'm just your ex. And you're fired. The security officer stepped forward as I turned to leave. Behind me, I could hear the beginnings of protests, threats, and desperate bargaining. But I was already walking away, heading toward the boardroom where the real work of cleaning house would begin. After all, I had a company to run. The board meeting was quick and decisive. 12 pairs of eyes watched as I signed the official termination documents, their expressions a mix of admiration and shock at finally meeting their elusive CEO in person. But the real work was just beginning. As security escorted Matt and his crew from the building, I retreated to my private office, the mysterious top-floor suite that had spawned so many rumors over the years. Emily followed, tablet in hand, ready to execute the next phase of our plan. Their access has been revoked, she reported, swiping through security protocols. IT is freezing their accounts and backing up all data. Legal has already sent cease and desist orders to prevent any retaliation attempts. I stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows, watching Matt and his friends being escorted to their cars below. Even from 20 stories up, I could read the shock in their body language, the disbelief in their stumbling steps. What about the house? I asked, thinking of the home Matt thought he'd helped pay for. The security team is already there, changing the locks. Your personal items have been moved to the penthouse as planned. As for Matt's things, Emily paused, allowing herself a small smile. They'll be delivered to his mother's house by this evening. I nodded, remembering all the times Matt had bragged to his mom about supporting me through my career struggles. The irony wouldn't be lost on her. And the divorce papers? Being filed as we speak. The prenup you had him sign is ironclad. He thought he was protecting his assets, never realizing he was signing away any claim to yours. A notification popped up on my private screen. Matt was already trying to damage control, posting on professional networks about strategic differences with Reynolds Technologies management. I watched as Emily's team swiftly countered with the truth, a carefully worded press release about the company's zero-tolerance policy for workplace harassment and discrimination. His LinkedIn profile still lists him as VP of Operations, I noted. Emily's fingers flew across her tablet. Not anymore. I sat down at my desk, my real desk, not the hidden one in my study at home, and began reviewing the contingency plans we prepared. Jay and his buddies weren't dumb. Their hurt pride would quickly turn to anger, and they'd probably try to get even. Their non-competes are active now. They won't work in this industry for at least 3 years. We've also told all the main competitors why they were fired. No good company will hire them. I brought up the security video from their exit interviews. Jay was still in denial, threatening to expose me. Mike broke down crying when he saw his stock options were worthless. The others kept switching between begging and making threats. What about their projects? Pete has already put together transition teams. No important operations will be impacted. Sophie paused. Still, I think we should audit everything they've done in the past year. Make it 3 years, I said, remembering their creative accounting talks. Also, flag any clients they've personally dealt with. My phone vibrated. Jay, using his personal number. I didn't answer, watching it join the list of blocked numbers. His friends had also been trying, likely hoping for some settlement. Should we put out a company-wide statement? Sophie asked. I thought about the rumors spreading through the building. By now, everyone would know their CEO was Jay's supposedly unemployable's wife. The story would spread through every department, getting wilder each time. Set up an all-hands meeting for tomorrow morning, I decided. It's time they met their real CEO, not the fake one Jay made. A small alert popped up on my screen. Jay had gotten to his mom's house. The security feed showed him with his boxes, and his mom went from confused to horrified as he told her what happened. His company car GPS shows it's still in our lot. Security's waiting to get it. I nodded, then turned to the papers that needed my immediate attention. Org charts needed updating, jobs needed reassigning, and we had to start damage control with our main clients. One more thing, Sophie added, her voice a bit softer. That charity gala next month where you met Jay. Cancel my RSVP, I cut in. But double the company's donation, anonymously. The afternoon flew by with meetings, choices, and strategy. I watched on security feeds as Jay's office was cleared out, his things packed and shipped. His parking spot, the one he always bragged about, was already taken. By evening, with the sun setting, Sophie gave me one last report. They're all on garden leave at home. Security's watching their communications. Nothing weird yet, but they're in shock, I said. Give them a day, then the real reactions will start. I leaned back, finally feeling the weight of the day. In under 12 hours, I dropped a fake identity, ended a marriage, fired 5 execs, and become public as CEO. Was it worth it? Sophie asked quietly, getting real for a second. I thought about years of quiet humiliation, watching Jay and his buddies mess with others' dreams, seeing their cruelty to those they looked down on. Ask me again in a week, I replied, looking back at my screens. Still work to do, a company to run, and a reputation to fix. After all, revenge wasn't just one big moment. It was about making sure they couldn't hurt anyone else again. The next morning was super busy. The all-hands meeting was at 10 a.m., but I got to the office at dawn. There were strategic moves to make before talking to everyone. We've got movement, Sophie reported, walking into my office with her tablet. Jay tried to call the Miller account at 3 a.m. Luckily, we'd already locked down all client communications. I brought up the monitoring screen on my display. In the 12 hours since they were fired, each exec had made predictable moves. Mike tried downloading client lists before his access got cut off. Pete, my planted executive, documented every try. Their severance? I asked, even though I knew. Voided because of documented misconduct. Legal put together a full brief. Sophie's fingers flew over her tablet. Jay tried to get into his investment accounts at midnight. He seemed shocked his stock options were worthless. I smiled, remembering how he always bragged about his company shares at dinners. He never read the small print about misconduct. What about the rest? 2 have already talked to competitors. We've got proof. It's a clear breach of their non-competes. Sophie paused. And Jay's mom has been loud on social media about her daughter-in-law's betrayal. I brought up the social media monitoring feed. The story was out, but not how Jay wanted it. Former employees came forward with their own stories of harassment and discrimination. Each post backed up our story of a needed corporate cleanup. Time for the next step, I said, pulling up a ready email. With one click, I sent out meeting invites to everyone who reported to Jay and his group. That'll make some people anxious, Sophie noted. Good, I want them off kilter. I stood up, smoothing my skirt. Get security to sweep Jay's office again. Look for any hidden papers or devices. The morning played out like a good chess game. While Jay and his friends were licking their wounds and plotting revenge, we were taking apart their corporate legacy. At 9:45, I stood in my private bathroom mirror making final adjustments. The woman staring back looked nothing like the meek wife Jay had mocked for years. Today's look was a steel gray Armani suit, accessorized with quiet, clear power. The auditorium's full, Sophie reported. Everyone's waiting. I nodded, collecting my thoughts. Start recording. The all-hands meeting would be recorded for legal reasons and to reach employees everywhere. As I walked onto the stage, the quiet whispers stopped right away. Good morning, I began, my voice clear through the speakers. I'm Alex Chin, founder and CEO of Reynolds Technologies. Some of you knew me as Jay Morrison's wife. Today you'll know me as your leader. It was completely silent. Up front, I saw the HR team squirming, probably recalling yesterday's fake interview. Yesterday, we fired 5 executives for cause. You've all heard the rumors. Yes, one was my husband. Yes, it was due to documented misconduct, harassment, and power abuse. I paused, letting that sink in. But today's not about them. It's about us. About the company we'll be moving forward. For the next hour, I laid out my vision for Reynolds Technologies. With each point, I systematically broke down the toxic culture Jay and his friends had built. New reporting, better HR, anonymous feedback. Each was a calculated move in our corporate chess game. Finally, I ended with, my door is open, not just figuratively, but literally. Starting today, any employee can schedule time with me directly. No gatekeepers, no filters. The applause started slow, then got louder as I left the stage. Sophie showed me her tablet. The company's internal messaging system was blowing up with positive replies. Back in my office, the next phase started. One by one, I met with Jay's former direct reports. Each talk was a careful balance of reassurance and assessment, finding allies and threats. Jay called again, Sophie reported between meetings, this time from a burner phone. He's demanding a private meeting. Documented for legal, I replied, looking over notes from my last meeting. And check his mom's social media. She usually shows his next move. By late afternoon, the corporate chess game had totally changed. 3 of Jay's most loyal managers quit instead of adapting to the new setup. 2 others gave valuable info on past misconduct for amnesty. Mr. Miller called, Sophie announced. They want to meet the real CEO. I smiled, recalling how Jay mocked my ideas for their account. Schedule it for tomorrow, and send them the presentation I've been working on, the one Jay rejected last month. A notification appeared on my screen. Jay was seen at a bar with Mike and two other former execs. Our surveillance team was listening to their conversation. They're planning something, Sophie observed. Of course they are, I replied, bringing up backup plans we made months ago. Let them plot. Every move they make just gives us more ammo. I turned to the window, watching the sunset over the city. Somewhere out there, 5 mad men were finding out how completely they'd been outsmarted. But their game ended yesterday. Mine was just starting. Tomorrow, I told Sophie, we start phase 2. Let's see how they handle being jobless. After all, the queen's the strongest chess piece, and I'd been playing this game long before they knew they were even pieces. Dawn found me reviewing security footage from the bar where Jay and his group met. Their angry talks, fueled by pricey scotch, gave us all the proof we needed to boost our legal standing. They're gonna sue, Sophie announced, walking into my office with 2 coffees. Jay called 3 law firms this morning. I took the coffee, hiding my smile. Show me. She brought up the morning surveillance report. Jay had been busy, but every firm he called was already linked to Reynolds Technologies via shell companies. Trying to hire them would hit an instant conflict of interest. He's also been contacting our main clients, Sophie went on, especially the Miller account. Send me the recordings. The audio played through my private speakers. Jay's voice, still full of entitled confidence, tried to convince our clients he was wrongfully fired, that his wife manipulated power, and the company was in danger with me leading. Mr. Miller's response, I asked, even though I could guess. Sophie played the next clip. Miller's voice was cold. Jay, your wife's proposal last week was brilliant. The one you dismissed? Yeah, we found out. Don't contact us again. I brought up our evidence database on my secure terminal. For over a year, we've been building a solid case against Jay and his inner circle. Every harassment, every discriminatory comment, every power abuse, all carefully documented. The board wants an update, Sophie noted. They're worried about possible fallout. Set up a meeting for this afternoon and bring me everything from the last 3 years. Emails, meeting recordings, expense reports. It's time to show them why this cleanup was needed. The morning played out with a series of smart moves. While Jay and his friends wasted savings on lawyers, we were steadily strengthening our position. HR gave a thick file of complaints buried by the last management. IT recovered emails that were accidentally deleted. Former employees started reaching out, offering stories about the toxic culture they'd left. Jay's mom is stepping up her social media campaign, Sophie reported. She's saying you seduced him as part of a long-term takeover plan. I laughed, pulling up the prenup Jay had insisted on. Send her lawyers a copy of this, the one her son demanded to protect his assets from his supposedly gold-digging wife. By midday, our legal team had put together a devastating brief. Every time Jay bragged about stock option manipulation, every recorded talk about sidelining qualified women, every documented abuse of company resources, all were detailed damningly. The surveillance team found something interesting, Sophie said, rushing into my office after lunch. They met with someone from our competitor, Zenith Solutions, last night. I brought up the footage. Through our high-end mics, Jay was heard offering company secrets for executive jobs for him and his friends. Send copies to their lawyers, I instructed, and to Zenith Solutions board. Let's see how fast they distance themselves. The afternoon board meeting was a masterclass in business strategy. One by one, I showed why each fired executive had to go. The board's worries vanished as they saw how much corruption we'd cut out. There's more, I announced, bringing up financial records. We found irregular payments through their expense accounts. The SEC would be really interested in some of these transactions. Jay's on his way up, Sophie cut in, checking her tablet. He somehow got the lobby security to let him in. I smiled, pulling up the lobby camera feed. No, I got security to let him in. Watch this. On screen, Jay stormed through the lobby, his costly suit wrinkled, his face red from anger and booze. He was holding a folder he thought had damaging info for sure. Should I get security to stop him? Sophie asked. Not yet. Let's see what he thinks he's got. Minutes later, Jay burst into the boardroom, his triumphant look fading as he saw me calm at the head of the table. I have proof, he yelled, waving his folder. Proof she planned this whole thing. You mean proof I founded this company, built it from nothing, ran it well while you took credit for my strategies? I slowly stood. Or proof I documented your misconduct for years while you mocked my unemployment? The board members watched silently as Jay's confidence fell apart. You trapped me, he stammered. No, Jay, you trapped yourself. Every time you belittled a candidate, pushed aside a qualified woman, or laughed about your unemployed wife, you built this case against yourself. I nodded to Sophie, who put our full evidence file on the room screens. Jay watched in horror as years of his misconduct showed up in high def. Your choices, I calmly went on, are simple. Leave now, respect the non-compete, and keep any dignity you have left. Or fight, and watch every detail of your behavior become public. You can't, he started. Security, I cut in, pressing a desk button. Please escort Mr. Morrison out, and this time, revoke his lobby access. As security let him out, I turned back to the board. Now, about those odd financial transactions. The rest of the afternoon was spent making our legal position stronger. Every piece of evidence was filed, every testimony recorded, every document notarized. By evening, our case was so strong no law firm would touch Jay's claims. They're meeting again tonight, Sophie reported as it got dark. Same bar. Good, I replied, checking the latest surveillance request. Let's hear what other evidence they'll give us. After all, the best case means letting your opponents think they're winning until they lose everything. The bar surveillance was more valuable than we hoped. Drunk on pricey whiskey and hurt pride, Jay and his friends spent hours accidentally confessing to years of corporate wrongdoing. Play that part again, I told Sophie the next morning, leaning forward. Through our top-notch surveillance feed, Jay's slurred voice filled my office. Remember that merger last year, the one that made us look smart? Well, let me tell you how we really did that. What followed was a detailed confession of insider trading, with names, dates, and money. Send this to legal, I ordered, and tell the SEC, anonymously. It's time to make our perfect storm. Sophie's fingers flew over her tablet. Jay has already started selling his personal stocks. The others are doing the same. Perfect. I brought up our backup plans. Activate Protocol Thunder. Protocol Thunder was months of planning, a series of events meant to trap Jay and his group in their own lies. Phase 1 started right away. Leak the merger investigation to the financial press, I instructed, but make it look like it's from a concerned former employee. In hours, the story was on business news. Reynolds Tech stock dipped a bit, just as planned. Jay and his friends, already paranoid and watching their investments, would see it as a chance to save themselves. They're panicking, Sophie reported, monitoring their calls. All 5 of them are calling their brokers at the same time. I watched the monitors as they frantically sold shares, trying to get ahead of what they thought was next. With each sale, they got deeper into legal trouble. Now, I said, nodding to Sophie, release phase 2. The news went out company-wide and to all major media. Reynolds Tech announced a big restructuring and expansion. Our stock shot up fast, but Jay and his friends had already sold at a loss. A clear case of attempted market manipulation from inside info. Mr. Miller from the Antitrust Commission is on line 1, Sophie announced. I took the call on speakerphone. Alex Chin, Miss Chin, we've gotten some interesting info on last year's merger. Yes, we've been doing an internal investigation, I replied smoothly. I'd be happy to share our findings, including some very telling surveillance footage from a bar last night. Everything was falling into place. By midday, the SEC formally investigated Jay and his friends' trading. The Antitrust Commission was reviewing the merger, and our stock price soared as the market reacted to our expansion. Jay's trying to leave the country, Sophie reported, checking her surveillance feeds. His passport was mysteriously flagged at the airport. I let myself smile a little. How unfortunate. And the others? Mike is having a meltdown in his broker's office. 2 others are meeting with criminal defense lawyers. The last one's trying to delete his email history, not knowing we already have it all. The afternoon brought more developments. Our anonymous tip sparked investigations at 3 other companies where Jay and his friends used to work. Former colleagues, sensing trouble, started coming forward with their own stories of misconduct. Their lawyers want a meeting, Sophie announced. They're offering to settle. Decline, I replied, watching the latest news. Let them sweat. By evening, the perfect storm was really happening. The SEC's investigation now included their personal trading accounts too. The Antitrust Commission had frozen their money while they looked into things, and 3 different class action lawsuits were filed by ex-employees claiming they were systematically discriminated against. Leo's mom has been quiet on social media, Chloe noted, looking pleased. She probably saw the insider trading accusations. I said, even she can't make that sound good. Then, a notification popped up on my screen. Leo was trying to get into his frozen accounts and getting more and more desperate as every transaction got turned down. Should we give the bar video to the media? Chloe asked. Not yet, I said, standing and walking to the window. Let's see how they deal with tomorrow first. Tomorrow would kick off the final part of Protocol Thunder. While Leo and his pals were busy with investigations and frozen money, we'd been secretly buying up all the shares they dumped through shell companies. Once the market opened, Reynolds Technologies was going to announce a big government contract, one we'd been working on secretly for months. Their wives are calling divorce lawyers, Chloe reported, checking her tablet one last time that day. Looks like they're not thrilled about possibly losing everything because of their husband's fraud. I thought about that prenup Leo had insisted on, figuring he was protecting himself from some gold digger. It was so ironic that it would now protect my assets from his legal issues. Send them all meeting invites for tomorrow morning, I told her. 9 a.m. sharp. They won't show up, Chloe predicted. Oh, they will, I said, turning from the window, my reflection looking hard and clear in the darkening glass. Because right now I'm their only shot at surviving. As night came down on the city, I went over tomorrow's plan one last time. In less than 12 hours, Leo and his pals would be in my office, totally broken and desperate, as I'd give them their options, either total destruction or just complete humiliation. Their security badges are ready, Chloe said, putting 5 visitor passes on my desk. I picked one up and ran my thumb over Leo's photo. Tomorrow it is. After all, the perfect storm wasn't just about destroying things. It was about making your enemies see the lightning before the thunder even hit. 9 a.m. arrived exactly on time. Just like a perfectly planned symphony, one by one, Leo and his old colleagues slowly walked into my office, looking like ghosts of their old arrogant selves. Their pricey suits were all wrinkled, and their faces looked rough from not sleeping and all the pressure they were under. Gentlemen, I greeted them from behind my desk. I guess you've all had quite a week. Leo couldn't look me in the eye. Mike was visibly shaking. The others just stared at their visitor badges, like they couldn't really believe how far down they'd fallen. The board's waiting, I announced, standing up. Shall we? They followed me to the executive boardroom like they were condemned men. Through the glass walls they could see the whole board of directors sitting around the huge table, plus our legal team and some SEC reps. Before we start, I said, pausing at the door, I want you to get something. What goes down in the next hour won't just decide your careers, but also your personal freedom. The boardroom got quiet as soon as we walked in. Chloe was standing by the presentation screen, all set to start. The SEC reps had their notebooks open with their pens ready. Board members, honored guests, I started, sitting down at the head of the table. We're here today to talk about some serious issues related to how the companies run, financial misbehavior, and the systematic abuse of power. I nodded to Chloe and the presentation began. On the screen, all the proof of their wrongdoings showed up in shocking detail. Trading records, surveillance video, email trails, recorded calls, a full list of all the destruction they caused. As you can see, I went on, while Leo sank deeper into his chair, this pattern of misconduct goes way beyond just regular workplace harassment. We're talking about securities fraud, insider trading, and criminal conspiracy here. The SEC reps were quickly taking notes. The board members' faces were stone cold. Mike looked like he was about to pass out. However, I paused, letting the tension grow. Reynolds Technologies is ready to offer a limited amnesty deal. One time, one offer, no bargaining. That got their attention, all right. 5 heads shot up, hope battling suspicion in their eyes. Chloe handed out thick folders of documents to each of them. The terms are simple, I explained. You gotta fully cooperate with all investigations. Fully reveal all misconduct, whether we found it before or not. Give back all the money you made from any irregular trading. And most important, you have to publicly admit what you did. You want us to confess? Leo finally spoke up, his voice cracking on that last word. I want you to deal with the results of your choices, I corrected him. Sign these agreements now, and Reynolds Technologies won't press criminal charges. Refuse, and the SEC has enough evidence to make sure you all spend a lot of time in federal prison. The board members watched without expression as the 5 men frantically went through their documents. Their lawyers, sitting behind them, were already nodding grimly. You've got 5 minutes to decide, I announced, checking my watch. After that, this offer's off the table, and we go ahead with a full prosecution. The next few minutes were full of desperate whispers between the men and their lawyers. I could see the exact moment each of them broke, their signatures showing up on the documents one after another. Leo was the last one, his hand shaking as he quickly wrote his name. Our eyes met when he pushed the folder across the table. In his eyes, I saw his arrogance finally die, and he totally got how completely he'd been outsmarted. Excellent, I said, picking up the signed documents. Chloe will now take you to separate conference rooms where you'll start your depositions with the SEC reps. Once they were led away, I turned to the board. So now, let's talk about what's next for Reynolds Technologies. For the next hour, we laid out our future plans, new corporate governance, better compliance rules, and a total shakeup of the executive team. The board, seeing how precisely I'd handled the crisis, approved every single proposal without any objections. One last thing, I added as the meeting wrapped up. I want it noted that every employee affected by the old management's discrimination will be looked at for getting their jobs back or getting paid. The board approved it right away. Anyway, it was a small price to pay to avoid the public relations disaster we'd saved them from. Later, in my office, Chloe brought me the first depositions. "They're spilling everything," she reported, each one trying to save himself by blaming the others. I quickly read through the documents, noticing how fast they turned on each other. "Make sure their confessions are recorded and witnessed properly. We don't want them taking anything back later." Through my window, I saw Leo being walked to his car, his career and reputation totally ruined. His lawyer was already on the phone, probably trying to save whatever he could from his client's ruined life. "Their trading records?" I asked. "Chloe, they're being gone over by forensic accountants. Initial estimates are that they'll each have to pay back a few million in irregular profits." I nodded, then turned back to my desk. The company's stock was up 15% because of the news about the governance changes. Business papers were already calling Reynolds Technologies a great example of corporate accountability. "Set up a company-wide meeting for tomorrow," I instructed. "It's time to rebuild what they tried to ruin." Chloe stopped at the door. Was it worth it? I thought about all those years watching them crush dreams, bully their staff, and make fun of anyone they thought was beneath them. About all the careers they messed up and lives they affected. "Ask the people who are getting their jobs back," I replied. "Ask the women who won't have to deal with harassment anymore. Ask everyone who thought they'd never see justice." Anyway, the best revenge isn't just about punishing people. It's about making sure things get better for those left behind. The days after the board meeting played out like a perfectly planned domino effect. Every morning brought fresh revelations, every afternoon new consequences, and every evening new wins. "Leo's criminal defense lawyer quit," Chloe announced, walking into my office with the morning brief. "Looks like he tried to take back parts of his confession." I pulled up the surveillance video from his deposition room. "Send them the video of his voluntary confession and the one where his lawyer told him his rights 3 separate times." The consequences were spreading outside our company walls. 3 other companies started their own investigations after finding similar patterns of bad behavior from when Leo and his friends worked there before. Their professional networks were falling apart as former allies quickly tried to distance themselves. "Mike tried to kill himself," Chloe quietly reported, putting a news clipping on my desk. "Is he stable?" "Yeah, he's under psychiatric observation." I nodded, feeling a complicated mix of emotions. "Make sure his medical bills are paid for anonymously, and have HR quickly review anyone he harassed or discriminated against." The media was having a blast with this. Business journals were doing deep dives into toxic corporate culture. Women's magazines wanted interviews about breaking the glass ceiling. Tech blogs were looking into how the phantom CEO managed to pull off such a perfect takedown. "Leo's mom gave an interview," Chloe said, pulling up the video. "I watched the woman who used to brag about her successful son now tearfully apologize for enabling his behavior. The interview finished with her announcing she was donating to workplace harassment prevention programs. His wife filed for divorce this morning, along with 3 other wives. They're all saying they knew nothing about the financial fraud." I turned to the window, looking at the city below. Somewhere out there, Leo was probably sitting in his mom's guest room, watching his whole world fall apart. His money was frozen, his reputation ruined, his marriage done, and his future was just a mess of legal stuff. "The interviews for reinstatement are going well," Chloe continued, changing the subject. 12 former employees have already accepted offers to come back. Among them was Jenny Chen, no relation, a brilliant programmer Leo had forced out 2 years ago. She was now leading our new AI division, and her skills were finally being recognized and valued. The Thompson account doubled their contract with us. "They're really impressed with our new leadership and how transparent we're being." A notification popped up on my screen. Another former employee had just gone public with their story. This time, it was someone from Leo's old company, talking about a pattern of behavior that went back years. "The SEC investigation is getting bigger," Chloe reported. "They're looking into every single company those guys ever worked for." I pulled up our secure database and reviewed all the evidence we'd collected. "Send the investigators everything we've got. Every document, every recording, every single trace of misconduct." The professional consequences were only just starting. The social consequences were turning out to be just as bad. Their country club memberships were taken away, they had to quit their board spots at charities, and their kids' private school applications suddenly ended up on a waiting list. "They're being blacklisted from every executive job on the East Coast," Chloe noted, scrolling on her tablet. "The whistleblower websites are totally packed with stories about them." I looked at the latest photos from our surveillance team. Leo, unshaven and looking a mess, trying to meet with former colleagues who suddenly had urgent plans somewhere else. Mike, leaving his shrink's office, looking haunted and empty inside. The others, each handling their downfall in their own desperate ways. "Paulson sent his final report," Chloe added. The transition team has totally restructured their old departments. Productivity's up 40%. It wasn't just about the numbers. The office vibe had totally changed. Without Leo and his friends' toxic influence, employees were thriving. Innovation was going up, teamwork was getting better, and the fear that used to be everywhere in some departments was finally fading away. Their legal teams are asking for another meeting, Chloe said. They want to talk about cooperating more to get lighter penalties. Too late, I said, turning back to my desk. They had their shot at amnesty. Actions have consequences. A message flashed on my screen. Leo was trying to email me from a new account. Just like all his past attempts, it got automatically archived for the legal team and blocked. What about his personal stuff? I asked. Still in storage. Apparently, his mom's house is too small for all his essential luxury stuff. I thought about how he used to make fun of people for shopping at department stores, driving normal cars, and living within their means. Now, he was learning what things really cost, and the price of being so arrogant. The class action lawsuit is moving forward, Chloe updated me. 300 former employees have joined it. Every day brought new stories, careers messed up, chances taken away, and lives affected by their systematic discrimination and abuse of power. The lawsuit wasn't just about money, it was about holding them accountable and getting an acknowledgement. And the press is still asking for interviews? They're especially curious about how you kept up the Phantom CEO act while you were married to Leo. I shook my head. That story's staying private. Just a reminder that sometimes the quietest person in the room is the one you really need to watch out for. Schedule the next board meeting for next week, I instructed. It's time to start phase 2 of our company restructuring. As Chloe left, I looked at the latest surveillance photos one last time. 5 men, once super powerful and arrogant, were now just shadows of their old selves. Their downfall wasn't just about their jobs. It was total and couldn't be undone. After all, the real impact of revenge isn't just the first big explosion. It's the radioactive aftermath that makes sure nothing can ever grow back in that spot. 6 months had gone by since I revealed myself as Reynolds Technologies CEO. Standing at my office window, watching autumn leaves scatter across the company plaza, I thought about how much everything had totally changed. The final numbers are in, Chloe said, walking in with her tablet. Quarterly profits are up 60%. Employee satisfaction is at an all-time high, and the class action settlement got approved this morning. I nodded and turned from the window. The settlement would make sure everyone harmed by Leo and his gang got the right compensation. More importantly, it had forced them to publicly admit what they did. What about our former executives? Chloe's fingers moved quickly across her screen. Leo's working as a junior sales associate at a small electronics store in Ohio. His mom's connections got him the job, but he's already on probation because of his attitude. The mighty really had fallen. The guy who used to make fun of other people's careers was now having trouble hitting basic sales targets. Mike's still in therapy, but he's doing better. He's put out an apology online and is working with groups that prevent workplace harassment. Seems pretty genuine, actually. I picked up a framed magazine cover from my desk, last month's Business Week, showing Reynolds Technologies' transformation. The article had praised our new company culture without ever bringing up the scandal that caused it. The others? One's teaching business classes at a community college, ironically, focusing on corporate ethics. Another is working for his brother-in-law's construction company. The last one moved to Alaska to find himself. Their downfalls had been spectacular, but that's not what I thought about the most. Instead, I focused on the changes that happened because they left. Jenny's AI division? Chloe smiled. They filed 3 new patents this quarter. The team she put back together is totally changing how we do software development. Across the whole company, similar big changes had happened. Departments that used to be controlled by fear were now buzzing with new ideas. Employees who were once pushed aside were now leading breakthrough projects. The bad culture Leo and his friends had created was being replaced by something truly collaborative. The Thompson account sent this over, Chloe said, putting a bottle of champagne on my desk. They're really impressed with the new project proposals. Jenny's team apparently fixed a problem they've been struggling with for years. I thought about all the times Leo had dismissed Jenny's ideas, made fun of her suggestions, and made her question her own brilliance. Now she was running our most profitable division. Any recent attempts to reach out? Chloe checked her logs. Leo tried to reach out on LinkedIn last week. His profile still says he's our former VP of operations, but anyone who looks up his name gets a totally different story. The internet never forgets. Every article about workplace harassment, every exposé on corporate fraud, every warning story about abusing power. Their names were in all of them. The documentary crew is asking for another interview, Chloe added. They're calling it Glass Ceiling Shattered. It's about company transformation and women in leadership. I shook my head. Instead, send them to our successful division heads, Jenny, Mia, Sophie. They're the ones actually doing the real work of rebuilding. My phone buzzed. A message from Leo's mom. Since her public apology, she'd become an unexpected supporter in reforming corporate culture, talking about the dangers of letting bad behavior go on. I'd secretly funded her speaking tour. The board meeting's in 10 minutes, Chloe reminded me. They want to talk about expanding internationally. I gathered my stuff and paused at the office door. The nameplate just said, Alex Chen, CEO. No more hiding, no more masks, no more faking it. It's been exactly 6 months, Chloe noted, walking beside me. Any regrets? I thought about Leo's last words to me in the boardroom, his final try at manipulating me. I really did love you, you know. I really did love you, you know. No, I replied, walking quickly toward the conference room. No regrets, just lessons learned. The lessons weren't just about getting revenge. They were about power, responsibility, and how you should use both wisely. About making something better out of the ruins of destruction. The employee mentorship program has a waiting list now, Chloe reported as we walked. Turns out people are really eager to learn when they don't have to worry about being made fun of. That was the real win. Not Leo and his friends' downfall, but the rise of everyone they tried to keep down. Every employee who got promoted, every idea that was put into action, every positive change was proof of what could grow once you took the poison out of the soil. One last thing, Chloe said as we got to the boardroom. HR reported no harassment complaints this quarter. First time ever in company history. I paused, letting that information sink in. The human cost of Leo's leadership style was impossible to measure, but the healing was measurable. Something you could actually put numbers on, real. Inside the boardroom, the board members were already seated. These meetings were different now, more collaborative and focused more on long-term growth than quick profits. That fear of speaking up? It was gone, replaced by the thrill of what could be. Should we get started? Sarah took her seat at the head of the table, feeling equally the heavy responsibility and the light relief of being proven right. Because, let's be real, the best revenge isn't just about tearing down what was wrong. It's about building something way better in its place. And looking around at what Reynolds Technologies had become, Sarah knew the real win wasn't just Mark's downfall. It was in everyone else getting ahead. Let's talk about the future, Sarah said, opening her folder. That's what's left after revenge, you know? Not the satisfaction from destroying stuff, but the responsibility of creating something. And Sarah was ready for both.